The Asian Peninsula is actually quite hectic at the moment with North Korea and also the earthquake that is happening in Japan. Now we are going to discuss this further with lawyer and political analyst Ross Feingold is joining us from Taiwan, Taipei. Welcome, Ross. Thank you for joining us.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for joining us here on A News. I would like to start by asking you the situation with the North Korea. As you know, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made some statements that he is quote-unquote scared of the second Korean War to start. And we know that he has been trying to ballistic missile to the region for a while. What do we expect between the two Koreas?
Strong rhetoric from North Korea is certainly nothing new. Threats to take military action against the South or to engage in a war with the United States, it's not new. Missile tests in violation of UN Security Council resolutions is also not new. We're used to seeing that from North Korea as well. A lot of this is often North Korea just trying to remind the world, the major powers, such as the United States, that they're still there and that North Korea wants to be heard. It wants to engage in negotiations, possibly. It would love to be able to trade more with some other countries and not face such severe sanctions that it's under. But in a world that's been dominated by the war in Ukraine and more recently the war in Gaza, people don't talk or think much about North Korea anymore. So a lot of what Kim Jong-un does is to try and remind the rest of the world, hey, we're still here and we want to be heard and we want to talk to you.
So you think this is about just the tabloids that is preoccupied with Gaza or Russia or the things that is happening at the moment? North Korea perhaps wants to be involved in the chaos once again, is it?
They want to be heard and they want negotiations. And because there's a long history over the past 30 years when countries are negotiating with North Korea, whether that's the United States or South Korea or other potential negotiating partners, North Korea has been very good at extracting things such as food, aid, or other types of assistance or reduction in sanctions. If there's no dialogue going on, then North Korea has no chance of getting those things, no chance of getting donations of food or medical supplies, and no chance of sanctions relief. So North Korea, again, a lot of their actions, such as their provocative military actions or their rhetoric, it's just based on being heard, and we want to restart any type of multilateral negotiations that North Korea could be a part of. Now, another interesting aspect of North Korea's actions now, they come at a time when the United States doesn't have good relations with China and the United States doesn't have good relations with Russia. In the past few decades, when there's been rounds of negotiation with North Korea, at sub-level, the United States, China, and Russia were working together. None of them were perceived to want North Korea to have nuclear weapons, for example. But now we're in a time when the United States and China and Russia are very hard to have, it will be very difficult to have any kind of alignment in their North Korea policies as well. So again, that probably adds to the lack of multilateral talks with North Korea, and it probably increases North Korea's frustration that they're not able to engage in multilateral talks at the moment.
Well, with the light of the things you mentioned about North Korea actually needing acknowledgement so that they can continue their negotiations, do we expect an actual attack between the two Koreas in 2024?
Probably not, but the risk of accidents is always there, and the risk of a provocative action by North Korea that prompts or necessitates a South Korean response are always possible. The North Koreans have sunk South Korean boats or submarines in the past. So they've taken provocative actions. And again, if there's a provocative action by the North, and especially a military provocation, then the South is going to find it very difficult not to respond. Also keeping in mind that the current president of South Korea is really a hawk. He's a hardliner when it comes to North Korea issues, unlike his predecessor, who was more of the view that negotiation and reducing tensions are the way to go forward. So again, if there is some kind of accident or a provocation from the North, the South is very likely to have to respond.
Should we also expect a close ship? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, because North Korea do not do allies, but they have some communication with the outer world, and we expect them to have good communication with Russia and China in the upcoming months. So you said something important. You said that right now this comes as United States and China and Russia are in a bad situation. Although China and US were trying to find some resolution at the end of 2023, we're not seeing many positive signs as of right now. So do you expect a close partnership, allyship between Russia, North Korea and China anytime soon?
Yeah, we're already seeing some signs of that. So some trade has resumed between North Korea and China across their shared border. There is a history of China really looking the other way on shipments that go into North Korea of oil or other goods. And it seems that after Kim visited Russia, that there's a new and strengthened relationship a bilateral relationship between North Korea and Russia, and possibly, as the United States believes, that North Korea is shipping lethal weapons to Russia for use in the war in Ukraine. So it's clear that North Korea's friendship with China and Russia has improved. And of course, that's very frustrating for the United States to the extent that it means existing sanctions are not being enforced by China and Russia.
Ross, lastly, I also would like to ask you about the earthquake that happened in Japan, because we are talking about the political stuff, but the nature stuff is quite important. Also, 7.6 magnitude, a earthquake that is so close to where you are. Also, the peninsula is close. And we know that it is going to have some effects on the regional actions as well. How is the situation?
Right now, people are really concerned about the possibilities for tsunamis. Although Japan, in recent hours, they've lowered the tsunami warning from the most major warning to a lower level of warning. But the possibility of tsunamis, as well as aftershocks over the coming days, is very, very real. And that's why the Japanese authorities, they continue to broadcast messages asking people near the coast in the affected areas to evacuate. And they're very, very clear that they want people to evacuate because the tsunami risk is very high, and frankly, it's very, very dangerous. And Japan learned that, unfortunately, with the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, which caused so much damage. So I think people in Japan are cognizant, and they're willing to listen. When the authorities say evacuate to higher ground because of tsunami risk, I think we'll see a high level of cooperation. And the risk of tsunamis and aftershocks in the coming days is very, very real.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ross. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Thank you.